comes into being, I guess. Is that right? That the level you can go into after that is to go into a dream state or a fantasy, I guess. I don't know if that's right.
It's not so much a dream state, but a fantasy. I mean, if you were to close your eyes and put yourself in a blank room, the immediate thing that would happen is you would create an internal world, right? And that's basically what happens with this original consciousness. You can call God if you want. I would say God with a little g.
Yeah.
Not big God, but little God.
Yeah.
The original one. But basically goes internal and starts dreaming up things. It starts thinking about things.
Yeah.
It's very kind of. I would say it's intellectual, but not in the way. More in a whole brain intellectual kind of way, not the left brain intellectual kind of way that a lot of us are used to thinking, but it's a much more visual, holistic, metaphoric. I don't know. It's a much bigger way of thinking about things.
Yeah. So.
But so it dreams, and it starts off simple. It dreams of a point and a line in a box in different Platonic forms. I think way back Plato said that reality was made up of forms.
Yeah, that's right.
Plato, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this original reality these original forms did kind of make up the initial reality, but then these get boring after a while, right? And then you have to you move on from there. And so little God or consciousness, little dot, did that for as long as it could, and then it got bored.
And with boredom with self, you got to the state of dreaming, and then because I'm looking at your kind of little, your path. You have this summary of how things evolve, the steps, and then you on the last one of those you mentioned from dreaming to becomes reality. How does that bridge, come about? Do you think is it, is it fair to say that our reality that we live in then is a dream world? Is that right?
Well, yeah, I would say that we get to the point where we get to the point of the Big Bang by the end of the article. But yeah, I mean, I would say that everything around us is part of a dream world, and it's not that weird. I mean, physicists already believe that everything kind of emerges out of this null space, or this, I don't know how they describe it, this vibrational soup, and the reality we see around us is basically just a standing wave pattern. It's like it's not really there. It's an illusion, and it's solid because of electromagnetic forces or something like. But if those didn't exist, things would pass right through each other. I'm not a physicist, so I'm probably hacking their theories here. But they do say that the world around us is an illusion. That it's not real. That it's energy. And Einstein said it. Energy equals mass and light. Like that link was already made. So this is actually just going a step beyond Einstein's and putting consciousness equals energy equals or light equals energy equals matter. Right.
Yeah.
So that's so that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And the reality. This part of the theory gets kind of mystical. I mean, why does this reality come about? Well, it really has to do with the power of the consciousness that we're talking about. Like we're not talking about the dim sort of human consciousness. That the dim part of that is reflected through the human brain, which I would think is a really, really sensitive, sort of fragile, not very good reflector of spiritual consciousness of the full power of that. It's much bigger than that. And so when this consciousness dreams, this dream. It becomes vivid after a while, right? It's like, for those of you who have experienced vivid dreaming, you know what that's like. That's what this is, except vivid dreaming taken up another 1,000-fold, where the reality of it is intense, even in this single consciousness, right?
Yeah. So, do you think that the well, let me. I'm looking at your picture here. Among other things, as you call the tree of consciousness. Do you think that is this a stage, before everything becomes? Is it in the dream state that everything divides itself? I'm looking at the Christmas tree, as it were, of consciousness. Is this after the dream stage has taken place, or is this before that?
This is after the dream state has taken place, and what happens at some point is when little G God gets tired of playing with itself, basically, it decides it needs some playmates, and so that's what it does. What you take, if you think of consciousness as kind of a 3D fabric, or I don't know, if you put say you put a bunch of smoke in a room, and that's consciousness, and then if you bring all that smoke together to the point where it kind of lights up, then that's an intensification of consciousness, and that's awareness, and that's God. So what God basically did in this early stage was bring forward or cause to coalesce the fabric of consciousness to another point, or to two more points, to eventually trillions and trillions and trillions of points of awareness, all part of the same fabric of consciousness, all working on playing, alleviating boredom and making sure that we don't lose the sense of bliss that we have. And I don't know if it's a heretical statement, but basically say that boredom is the opposite of bliss. And the real point in creation is to attain to bliss, and not in the way that the Eastern mystics would have said, where you kind of sit with your butt on a bunch of rocks in a painful position, but to really just go out and have fun and explore consciousness and experience everything from the perspective of this powerful consciousness.
One thing also that came to mind when I was thinking about this is if all of this in a sense came out of the boredom, as it were, in the creation or when the I became self-aware of the I, and everything, all of this came about from boredom. What do you think that the effects are, in the sense that we are rediscovering, maybe perhaps getting back to the origins of it all, or understanding where the source of it all comes from? Is it a danger in that process that, okay, now we know that all of this is just a play, and our search to go back or go into that third stage again begins? Does this loop around? I don't know if it makes sense what I'm asking here, but you follow along what I mean?
Yeah, you're asking if do we return to a state of innocence? Is that what you're asking?
In a way, maybe, but also in a way, are we when we are searching, for instance, in quantum physics, and as we now slowly discover that consciousness is a huge, it's such a it's all that you say, but it's a huge part of even the smallest experiments that we do down here, and when we discover it through quantum physics and all of these different fields that pops up now. But when we do that, do you think that it's a danger that we are breaking apart the original design, as it were, because it was created out of boredom? But do you think it's a danger that we can go back into that now, and that we discover how the structure is, and that makes us want to search for something else or something new? What do you think?
I don't think so. No, actually, this ties into the first book I wrote, which kind of gets us out of a scientific discussion into a New Age discussion about ascension and what the purpose of this earth is, and why we don't remember this. Because I think on most worlds, I don't believe that humans are the only people out there.
Yeah.
On other worlds, there isn't this forgetfulness. I mean, nobody we basically, if what I'm saying is true, you have to look at the Earth and you have to say, well, why does everybody not know about this? And the answer to that is, well, we've forgotten. Why have we forgotten? Well, because we're coming down here to do some. Basically this is a physics experiment, right?
Yeah.
Outline in Ascension in the Divine World Order. It's an attempt to generate enough energy to pop the material world through kind of like quantum barrier, to lift it up a little bit, so that so the conditions of physical matter are changed, right? Because right now physical matter appears very solid and it's very hard and it's very slow and viscous and all these other things.
Yeah.
And this is a function of the number of monads, basically, which is explained in the Book of Light. So. But what we're doing down here is basically trying to change the physical laws, and it's probably not a good idea to get too deep into this in this show, because it gets us too deep into the mysticism, I think.
Okay, yeah, sure. You also mentioned the let's see here, what you call we basically have the holy trinity of creation, like a replication, I guess, of the the dogmatic holy Trinity.
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What's your take on the Holy Trinity, the true one, then, I guess?
Okay, so repeat what I haven't got the paper in front of me. So tell me what I said there.
Let's see here. There's a lot of more detail, and let's see here.
It was original consciousness, which would be the Father. Then the dream matter, the dream, which would be the Son of the Father, and the Holy Ghost, which is spirit entering into matter, which we didn't really cover yet. But as part of the unfolding, as part of this process of creation, at some point, after trillions and trillions and googles of monads are created, multiple universes, right? In a creation that is literally, a million times the magnitude of what we currently know to be the size of creation. And what we currently know to be the size of creation is big, a lot bigger than it was 50 years ago. And it's going to get, my prediction, the next 50 years is going to get a lot bigger for scientists, much bigger than it is now.
Oh, really?
At the end of, we're going to they're going to start talking about the multiverse and universes with different physical laws than our own, and places where it just wouldn't look like a universe based on what we've experienced in this universe, but they still exist anyway. It's kind of a refinement to the multi-dimension. Some people talk about multiple dimensions and multiple universes now, but they talk about them as as if they're part of the same timeline or part of the same fabric. But these are really just, if you think of our universe like a bubble, and you think of consciousness as an infinite fabric, and then you just start imagining little bubbles here and there in consciousness, right? Yeah. Here and there, there's and each of these bubbles is a universe with galaxies and stars and monads and life forms. Then you can get a size of the true size of creation, which is literally infinite. But it doesn't go on infinite forever. I mean, even though we've got this multiverse, right? At some point, we end up exploring everything that's possible. We reach an end to experience. Basically, everybody's done everything, been there, done that. Basically,
yeah.
As the Australian says. and at that point, you got to figure out something else to do, right? At that point, that's where spirit kind of decides. Well, we've got this dream, and we're working on it from the outside.
Yeah.
Why don't we see what happens if we enter into it? Right? And so that's what happens. There's a few at first.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this in Volume 2 of the Book of Light, which should probably be out by the end of the year. We basically, the little spark of consciousness that we talked about earlier just enters into the fabric of the dream, right? And when that happens, that is the point that we are familiar with as the Big Bang, right? Because that's when light all of a sudden appears in the darkness, right? That's when consciousness enters into the fabric, and from that point on, science has a pretty good understanding of how things work, right? Except that they're not thinking of it in terms of intentional, right? They're thinking of it as it just happened and everything kind of unfolded the way it is randomly. The difference here is that, well, yes, there's the Big Bang, and here's what happened before, and here's what happened after that, and here's why it happened. So here's the cause of the Big Bang, and the cause of the Big Bang is consciousness entering into the dream fabric of consciousness.
Oh,
let there be light. God said, let there be light, and there was.
There was light, yeah. So, yeah, fascinating, because there is, as you say, there isn't, from the scientific field, I guess, an explanation for, they maybe can, analyze it in the sense that they think they know what happened, but maybe not, why it happened. There's no, there's nothing to respond to that, or even the constructions of how that came about, or yeah, as I said, the reasons for it basically. But what you're laying out here is that a reason or a theory for the creation of that. But if we are to return a little bit to what we began talking about, I guess that this is, as you said, that this is about when when it's very difficult to talk in these terms, but when you have nothing and then you have awareness, the only thing that can that awareness can be aware of is itself, right?
Right.
So the only thing that the only path, I guess, that it can take from there is to create a playing field, as it were, and the consequence on all these steps that you have explained here, leading up to that is the Big Bang. That is where the physical takes place, and that is the beginning of all the things that we can measure and touch. All of that is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And I'm just thinking as you're saying all this, I'm thinking back because I was trained Christian, and Jesus, because I know everything Jesus said because of that, but he would have said that you had to be like children